Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Law Chats with John and Amy. I'm John Yulian.
And I'm Amy Poliafico. This week's question is, why can a Chapter 7 bankruptcy discharge be denied?
Bankruptcy Code Section 727 sets out the different reasons that a debtor can be denied a discharge. And this section helps assure that only the honest debtor will ultimately be able to obtain a discharge in a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Remember, if a discharge is not obtained, the debtor is going to be responsible for all his or her debts, almost as if they hadn't filed a bankruptcy. And there's primarily 5 grounds under which a discharge can be denied. So, Amy, if you could help explain those different grounds, that would be great.
Sure, I'll go through the statute, and if you have any examples you want to add in, feel free to do so.
Thank you, I will.
Number one, let's start with the debtor, remember, is the name of the person that filed bankruptcy. It could be an individual or a married couple. So number one, the debtor with the intent to defraud either the Chapter 7 trustee or a creditor transferred or destroyed or concealed property within the 1 year prior to their bankruptcy filing. Number two, the debtor falsified, concealed, or destroyed, or didn't properly maintain their financial affairs. Essentially, like they destroyed their ledgers or their bank statements. Number three, the debtor fraudulently made a false oath, presented a false claim, or gave or received a benefit in exchange for a promise not to act or to act, or they withheld financial information from the trustee.
And Amy, just once again, if I can just jump in with an example of what they mean by the debtor fraudulently made a false oath. Remember, the debtor signs all the bankruptcy papers under the penalties of perjury. So an example of this occurring is if the trustee, in reviewing various documents, or when questioned the debtor at the trustee hearing, determines that the debtor was not honest on the papers that were submitted, and there's some material misrepresentations, that can be the basis to deny the discharge.
All right, perfect. Number four, the debtor failed to explain any loss of assets.
And once again, Amy, an example is when a debtor has numerous transactions going through various bank accounts, and they're sizable transactions, and then the debtor is unable to explain where all the money went, and so there's various funds that are unaccounted for. That's what's being referred to, for example, in this number 4, and a basis for the discharge to be denied.
All right, and finally, the debtor refused to obey a court order. They refused to testify after being given immunity, or they refused to respond to a court-approved question. So those are the 5 main ways that your Chapter 7 discharge could be denied.
Okay, thank you, Amy. I think that's a good place to stop for today.
Thanks for joining Law Chats with John and Amy. We look forward to chatting with you again next week. If you have a question or comment, feel free to email us at info@yulianlaw.com. Remember that Law Chats with John and Amy is intended as a general reference and considered general advertising, and listeners should check for changes to any applicable laws and consult with an attorney on any legal issue. The information provided does not constitute legal advice, and any thoughts or commentary by the podcasting lawyers is provided as a service to the community and does not constitute solicitation of legal advice. The lawyers in the law firm of Yulian & Associates PC make no warranties and disclaim all liabilities for damages resulting from its use. Nothing provided in the podcast should be considered a substitute for advice from counsel. No attorney-client relationship is formed by listening or participating in this podcast, and in the event that the podcast receives emails about the subject matter, no attorney-client relationship is created via the email communication.